when the IRA went to Spain. If the IRA are famous for one thing, it's road trips. Before the IRA existed, Irish-American Civil War veterans had invaded Canada for a laugh. In the 70s, men from Belfast found themselves sitting in front of Gaddafi, leader of Libya, to bring guns home. In the 1930s, Sean Russell, a prominent member, found himself in the Soviet Union raising money for the cause. And at the other end of the decade was meeting Ribbentrop, German foreign minister, probing for info on Operation Sea Lion, the proposed plan to invade Britain. Not to mention the mind-boggling web of informants and volunteers all over English towns and cities, carrying out their own homegrown brand of dissident republicanism in the 19th and 20th centuries. So it's safe to say the boys get around. But in no instance is this more true than the Spanish Civil War. See, the IRA, and by extension Irish republicanism, apart from some notable exceptions, which we'll get to, were, and still are, a pragmatic, but still a majority and distinctly left-wing movement. While the lines of the Irish Civil War had been drawn on pro versus anti-treaty lines, the Free State Army, those that opposed the treaty given by the British state at the end of the War of Independence, was overwhelmingly made up of British Army veterans, and a majority of the lower ranks of the IRA, and many of those who had been fighting even since the Rising and before, sided with the pro-treaty forces. And this is where the left-wing character of the IRA began to show. And in the 1920s and early 30s, the opposite was happening as well. This mostly came from a man called O'Duffy, who was an alcoholic who had been chief of staff of the IRA. He had been a rising star on the far right until he'd been shunned. One of his last acts before he died of alcohol complications was to send 800 of his blue shirts to fight with Franco in Spain. But the blue shirts and the IRA had a pretty troublesome relationship. See, to put it really simply, the blue shirts were the distant descendants of the pro-treaty Free Staters, or at least a splinter of them. And this incensed the IRA. In the early 30s, brutal street fights between the two were common. Later on, this would calm down as the IRA itself began to lose its left-wing character and even move slightly to the right. But they were still Republicans. So some IRA men and some communists in Ireland decided they would follow O'Duffy's men hot on their heels. And so the Connolly column was born, named after the infamous socialist and one of the main leaders in the Easter Rising, James Connolly. Led by Frank Ryan, just under 150 men went to Spain to fight against Franco, and are remembered for their heroics and occasional mishaps, such as when one ex-IRA man threatened to shoot a fellow English volunteer in Spain who had served in Ireland. With their mortal enemies, the Black and Tans, just over a quarter of the Connolly column wouldn't return home.